Will you be my date for the weekend? The mechanic agreed, not knowing she was a millionaire CEO. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. It was a chilly Saturday afternoon, the kind of weather that felt like autumn had overstayed its welcome. The wind carried a cold bite, and the clouds hung low, casting a gray veil over the city. Clara Pierce, a high-powered CEO of one of the largest tech firms in the country, had just finished an exhausting week of meetings, acquisitions, and business deals. But today, none of that mattered. Today, she just wanted to escape. With no plans for the weekend, she found herself in a small corner of the city, standing in front of a roadside mechanic shop. Her car had broken down, and despite her fame and wealth, she was now stuck, just like anyone else. The mechanic who arrived, a man named Tom, was in his late 30s with rough hands and a face that carried the weight of hard work. His worn jeans and faded jacket contrasted sharply with her designer clothes. She wasn't used to this, not this helplessness. As he got out of his old, beat-up van, his eyes met hers for a moment. He gave a nod and asked, "What's the problem, miss?" She sighed, feeling out of place. "My car won't start. I think the battery's dead." Tom didn't waste any time. He opened the hood of the car and got to work, effortlessly handling the wires and tools. Clara stood there for a moment, watching him. Something about the way he moved, with purpose but no rush, caught her off guard. For the first time in a while, she felt ordinary, like a regular person in need of help. Clara had grown up with everything, always surrounded by luxury. But in this moment, she was reminded of a life she never lived. She smiled softly, appreciating the simplicity of this man's world. "I'm Clara, by the way," she said, trying to make small talk. Tom glanced up, offering a polite but distracted smile. "Tom," he replied, before turning back to focus on the car. "You know, I could really use some help around here this weekend, if you're interested," Clara offered, feeling the need to make a connection. It had been so long since she'd had a meaningful conversation without the weight of business deals or status hanging over her. Tom looked up, his expression curious. "Help? With what?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag. Clara hesitated for a moment. "Maybe we could have dinner? Or if you prefer, I can just pay you for your work. I know it's a lot to ask, but you seem like someone who could use a break." Tom chuckled softly, wiping his brow. "A break, huh? Well, dinner sounds nice. But just so you know, I'm just a mechanic. Not really my style to be out on the town with someone like you." Clara felt a pang of discomfort. She was used to people bending over backwards for her. She had never experienced the feeling of rejection or indifference quite like this. Still, there was something about Tom's honesty that intrigued her. "I understand," she said, pushing aside any sense of awkwardness. "I'm just trying to make this weekend a little different." Tom shrugged, unsure of what to say, but he agreed. "All right, dinner it is." Little did he know, Clara had no intention of revealing her true identity just yet. For once, she wanted to be seen for who she truly was, not just the CEO of Pierce Technologies. The evening would unfold in unexpected ways, with Clara's carefully hidden secrets slowly unraveling, as a simple mechanic would unknowingly change the course of her life forever. Clara sat across from Tom at a small, cozy restaurant tucked away in a corner of the city. The evening had taken a turn she didn't quite expect. What started as a simple act of kindness, offering a mechanic a meal for fixing her car, had quickly turned into something much more profound. The soft hum of conversations around them blended with the clinking of glasses as they waited for their food. Clara had been used to being surrounded by luxury, but this place, with its humble decor and simple menu, felt like a breath of fresh air. Tom, on the other hand, seemed just as out of place, though he was doing his best to appear comfortable. He had never been to a fancy restaurant like this before, but he appreciated the gesture. "You're not what I expected," he said, finally breaking the silence between them. Clara smiled, feeling a little embarrassed. "I get that a lot," she replied, swirling her wine gently. "Most people assume that because I work in tech, I only know about business meetings and high-rise offices. Tom leaned back in his chair, studying her for a moment. Yeah, well, you're not like most of the people I've met, he said with a slight smile. You don't seem fake. Clara's heart fluttered at the sincerity in his voice. I guess I've always felt like I was living in a world that didn't belong to me. But it's hard to explain that to anyone who doesn't understand. Tom raised an eyebrow. I get it. Some people think I'm just a mechanic, and that's all I am. They don't realize that there's a lot more to me than that. Clara nodded, feeling the truth in his words. It had been a while since she had connected with someone who wasn't just interested in her status or wealth. I'm glad you agreed to join me, she said softly. It's nice to talk to someone who isn't worried about business or appearances. Tom smiled a bit shyly. I'm glad you asked. To be honest, I don't know why I said yes at first. But there's something about you. I don't know, maybe it's your honesty. Clara felt a rush of warmth. There was something comforting about Tom's genuine nature. She had never experienced this kind of connection before, not with anyone in her corporate world. The waitress arrived with their food, and they both paused to enjoy the moment of simple pleasure. As they dug into their meals, their conversation shifted to lighter topics, favorite books, hobbies, and dreams. Clara was surprised at how much she was opening up to Tom. She had spent so many years guarding her thoughts, her feelings, and her true self, but with him, it felt effortless. As the night wore on, Clara found herself laughing more than she had in weeks. Tom's humor was dry but endearing, and his stories about life as a mechanic were oddly fascinating. It wasn't long before they finished their meal, and Clara realized how much. She didn't want the night to end. I'm really glad we did this, she said, looking into Tom's eyes. He met her gaze, his smile softening. Me too. Maybe we could do it again sometime. Clara hesitated for a moment. She had been trying to keep her personal life separate from her work life, but something about Tom felt real, authentic. I'd like that, she replied, feeling a strange sense of peace. They both stood up, and as they walked out of the restaurant together, Clara couldn't help but feel a little lighter. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't worried about what others might think. She was simply enjoying the moment. Little did she know, the evening had only just begun to reveal the unexpected twists that fate had in store for her. Clara walked through the front door of her luxurious apartment, her heels clicking softly against the polished marble floors. The city lights outside cast a soft glow into the room, but her mind was elsewhere. She had just spent an evening with Tom, the mechanic, and the feelings swirling inside her were anything but ordinary. It had been so long since she had felt this way, genuine, unguarded, and even a little excited. She couldn't remember the last time she had laughed so freely or felt so connected to someone without the weight of her title hanging over her. It was strange, yet somehow refreshing. As she dropped her keys onto the polished kitchen counter, Clara's phone buzzed, breaking her train of thought. She glanced at the screen, expecting a message from her assistant, but it was a text from Tom. She hesitated for a moment before tapping the message open. I had a really great time tonight. I hope we can do it again sometime soon. Her heart skipped a beat. She smiled to herself, knowing she felt the same way, but something inside her hesitated. Could she really allow herself to get close to someone like him? Someone who didn't care about her wealth or her status. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying, but at the same time, it felt like she was holding on to a version of herself she had long buried under the weight of boardrooms and business deals. After a moment of thought, Clara quickly typed back, I'd love that. Let's make it happen soon. She hit send and leaned back against the counter, taking a deep breath. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't thinking about the next merger or the endless chain of meetings. She was thinking about Tom, the man who, despite being so different from her world, had made her feel like she wasn't alone. It had been weeks since she had felt truly seen, and Tom had done that for her. Her phone buzzed again, interrupting her thoughts. This time, it was her assistant, Lily. Clara, you have an important meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. with the board. Just a reminder. Clara sighed, her focus returning to the world she had been avoiding. Thanks, Lily. I'll be ready, she replied. But her mind was still on Tom. The next morning, Clara sat in her office, staring out the window at the bustling city below. The meeting with the board went as expected, tense, full of strategy and numbers, but as always, she kept her composure. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the mechanic, though. Tom was still on her mind, and for the first time in a long time, Clara was questioning her choices. She was used to people treating her a certain way, always looking for the business deal behind the smile or the hidden agenda lurking beneath the compliments. But with Tom, it was different. He didn't care about her title or her bank account. He simply cared about her. The meeting finally wrapped up, and Clara stood up, preparing to leave. She felt exhausted, but there was something else there too, a sense of longing. The next day, she decided to text Tom. She didn't want to overthink it, so she kept it simple. Would you like to join me for dinner again tomorrow night? She hit send before she could second-guess herself. As the hours passed, Clara felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. She had no idea what this meant or where it was headed, but she knew she wanted to see him again. A few hours later, her phone buzzed. I'd love to. I'm looking forward to it. Clara smiled, feeling the flutter in her chest once again. It was official. This weekend was going to be different. It was going to be real. As the night approached, Clara couldn't help but wonder if this was the beginning of something more, something unexpected. But no matter where it went, one thing was for sure. Tom had already begun to change her life in ways she hadn't imagined possible. Clara arrived at the small Italian restaurant, the kind of place with cozy booths and the scent of freshly baked bread in the air. She had chosen this spot intentionally, somewhere quiet and intimate, far removed from her high-profile world. As she stepped inside, she spotted Tom already sitting at a table by the window, a slight frown on his face as he checked his watch. He looked up when she entered, his eyes lighting up with a smile. Hey, you made it, he said, standing up to pull out her chair. Clara smiled, taking a seat. Of course, I wouldn't miss it. She noticed he looked a bit nervous, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by slight tension. You okay? She asked, glancing at the way he fidgeted with his napkin. Tom laughed lightly, shaking his head. Yeah, just not used to all this, he admitted, gesturing to the elegant setting around them. It's not every day I get invited to dinner at a place like this. Clara chuckled softly, feeling a bit of that familiar discomfort she had with her wealth. I get it, she said, her voice warm. I guess I'm not used to being just me either. Tom tilted his head, studying her. What do you mean? Clara hesitated, unsure whether she was ready to fully open up. But something about Tom's sincerity made her want to. I'm always the CEO. People only see the business side of me. They expect me to be perfect, put together. She paused, her gaze meeting his. But sometimes, I just want to be seen for who I really am. Tom nodded slowly, his gaze soft. I get it. I think we all have that part of us we hide, for one reason or another. For me, it's the mechanic. Clara smiled, realizing that this was the first time in a long while she wasn't trying to impress or hide behind her title. Tom wasn't judging her for being the boss. He was just enjoying her company. Their conversation flowed easily after that, from light-hearted stories to deeper, more vulnerable topics. Clara found herself talking about her childhood, her struggles to balance her personal and professional life, and the constant pressure to live up to others' expectations. Tom listened intently, offering his thoughts, here and there, but mostly just letting her speak. The hours seemed to slip away, and before long, they were the last ones left in the restaurant. Tom paid for the bill, and as they walked outside, Clara felt something stir inside her. It wasn't just the romance that had been blooming between them, but a sense of freedom. For the first time, she was with someone who wasn't interested in her money or her status. Thanks for tonight, Clara said as they stood on the sidewalk, the cool night air making her feel alive. It's been really nice. Tom smiled, his hands stuffed into his pockets. Yeah, it has been. I'm glad we did this. They stood in silence for a moment, the city bustling around them, but their world felt still. So, do you want to do it again? Clara asked, her voice softer than usual. I'd like that, Tom replied, his smile widening. As Clara headed back to her apartment later that night, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had the chance to choose it. With Tom, she wasn't just a CEO, she was simply Clara, and that felt like a luxury she hadn't realized she needed. Clara spent the next few days thinking about Tom, their dinner, and the connection they had started to build. She hadn't realized how much she had longed for something real, something without the veil of her wealth and status. At work, the usual flood of meetings, calls, and decisions seemed less important than usual. She found herself distracted, wondering if Tom was also thinking about her. She caught herself smiling at random moments, her mind replaying their conversations. It was a feeling she hadn't had in a long time, lightness, freedom. It had been so easy to talk to him, and for the first time, she felt seen. Not for her company, not for her bank account, but for who she really was. It was a rare gift, and Clara didn't want to let it slip away. That evening, after another long day of work, Clara decided to text Tom. She didn't want to wait anymore. "Hey, I was wondering if you're free tomorrow night. Maybe we could grab dinner again," she typed. She hesitated for a moment, but then hit send, feeling the flutter in her chest. She set the phone down and went to make herself a cup of tea, trying not to focus on the waiting. As she sipped the hot liquid, she heard her phone buzz. It was Tom. "I'd love to. I've been thinking about you too," the message read. Clara smiled, her heart lifting. "Great. It's a date, then," she replied, her fingers quickly typing the words. She had been so focused on work and everything else that she had pushed aside what she truly wanted. With Tom, she felt like she could finally be herself. The next evening, they met at a small cafe in the heart of the city. Clara walked in, looking for him, and found him already seated at a corner table. He looked up as she entered and smiled. That warm, genuine smile that made Clara's heart skip a beat. "You look beautiful," Tom said as she sat down. Clara felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she hadn't felt in a long time. "Thanks. You're looking pretty sharp yourself." They both laughed, and the conversation flowed easily, just like before. As they ate, Clara felt more and more at ease with him. She told him about her childhood, the dreams she had before she got caught up in the world of business. Tom shared stories of his life, his struggles, and his passion for fixing cars. "I've never really had much, but I've always loved what I do," Tom said. "I get to work with my hands, create something, fix things. It's simple, but it's everything to me." Clara looked at him, intrigued. "I respect that. I think, sometimes, we get so caught up in success that we forget what really matters." Tom nodded. "Yeah, I've seen a lot of people lose themselves chasing after things that don't make them happy. I think you get it." Clara paused, her mind drifting to the truth of his words. She had spent so many years striving for more, bigger deals, more success. But what had it all really brought her? She had everything, but still, something felt empty. Tonight, with Tom, she felt like she was starting to fill that emptiness. The evening ended with them walking through the quiet streets of the city. The night was cool, the air crisp, but there was warmth between them. Tom turned to her as they reached the end of the street. "I really enjoy spending time with you, Clara. I know we come from different worlds, but I feel like there's something special here." Clara's heart beat faster at his words. "I feel the same way," she said softly, her eyes meeting his. "I'm glad we met." Tom smiled, and for the first time in a long time, Clara didn't feel like she was hiding anything. She was just Clara, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Clara's life felt like it had shifted in ways she couldn't quite explain. As the days passed, she found herself anticipating the next time she would see Tom, her thoughts drifting to their dinners and conversations. She had always been someone who thrived in the world of business, the deals, the strategy, the late-night calls. But with Tom, everything felt different. He was a mechanic, someone whose life was simple in comparison to hers. Yet, every time they were together, she felt more at home than she had in years. A few days after their last dinner, Clara found herself standing in her office, staring out at the skyline of the city. The usual sense of purpose that came with the constant stream of emails, meetings, and decisions seemed far away. The thought of her upcoming board meeting, where she was supposed to present a multi-million-dollar deal, no longer filled her with excitement. Her phone buzzed on her desk, snapping her back to reality. It was a text from Tom. "I was thinking, maybe we could go for a walk in the park this weekend. I know you're busy, but I thought it could be nice." Clara smiled, her heart lifting. She quickly replied, "I'd love that. Let's make it happen." The weekend arrived, and Clara met Tom at the entrance to the park. She had dressed casually, jeans and a simple sweater, a far cry from the tailored suits she usually wore. Tom was already there, leaning against a tree, looking relaxed in his jacket and jeans. "Hey," he said with a warm smile, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. "You look different today." Clara chuckled. "I'm trying to embrace the casual look." Tom grinned. "It suits you." They started walking along the winding path, surrounded by the vibrant colors of fall. The cool air and the rustling of leaves made the moment feel peaceful, almost like the city didn't exist at all. For the first time in a long time, Clara felt completely free. They talked about everything and nothing, about the simple things that brought them joy and the challenges they faced. You know, Tom said, breaking the silence, I never really thought much about anything beyond work before. It was always about fixing cars, paying the bills. But when I met you, it kind of changed the way I look at life. Clara looked at him, surprised. How do you mean? I don't know, Tom said, pausing for a moment to gather his thoughts. You make me think there's more to life than just surviving. That maybe there's something bigger, something meaningful, you know? Clara smiled softly, touched by his words. I feel the same way, she admitted. I've spent so much time chasing success that I forgot to enjoy the moments, to really connect with people. Tom's eyes softened. Well, I'm glad I could remind you of that. They reached a bench by the pond, and Tom sat down first, patting the spot next to him. Clara joined him, and for a while, they just sat in silence, watching the ducks glide across the water. I'm glad we did this, Clara said, her voice quieter than usual. Me too, Tom replied, his tone warm and sincere. I think there's something special between us. Clara felt her heart race at his words. She had been cautious, unsure of where this connection might lead, but in that moment, she felt something shift inside her. Maybe she had been searching for this kind of connection for a long time, but hadn't known it. So, where do we go from here? Clara asked, her voice trembling slightly. Tom looked at her, his eyes steady. Wherever you want to go, he said with a soft smile. I'm not going anywhere. Clara's heart swelled at his words, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she could trust someone completely. It wasn't about the wealth, the business, or the title. It was about something deeper, something real. And for the first time in a long time, Clara realized that she wasn't alone anymore. Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing. After the walk in the park, the time spent with Tom felt even more meaningful. They were connecting in ways she hadn't experienced before, but with that connection came a mix of emotions. As the week went on, Clara found herself at a crossroads. She couldn't stop thinking about the life she was building with Tom. Yet, she was still the CEO of a billion-dollar company, constantly surrounded by people who wanted something from her. That world felt so far away from the simple, genuine moments she shared with Tom. But there was another part of her that couldn't ignore the reality of her life. The world she had built, the expectations, the pressure. Clara sat at her desk late one evening, reviewing some last-minute reports before an important meeting the next day. Her mind kept wandering back to Tom, his smile, his honesty, the way he made her feel like she could breathe without the weight of her title. Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Tom. I know you're busy, but I was wondering if you want to grab dinner tomorrow night. I've been thinking about you. Clara felt her heart race at the simple message. She had been thinking about him too, but she knew the next step in their relationship wasn't going to be easy. She had been careful to keep her business world and personal life separate, but Tom had already broken down so many walls. She didn't want to hide anymore, but she also didn't want to complicate things for him. Clara stared at her phone, unsure of how to respond. Then, after a long pause, she typed back, I'd love to, Tom. I've been thinking about you too. She hit send and let out a deep breath. The next evening, Clara arrived at their usual spot, the quiet cafe where everything felt real. As she stepped inside, she saw Tom sitting at their table, waiting for her. His face lit up when he saw her, and for a moment, everything else in the world disappeared. You look amazing, Tom said as Clara sat down. She smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her. Thank you. You don't look so bad yourself, she replied. The conversation started easily, but Clara could feel the tension building. She had so much she wanted to say, but she wasn't sure how to say it. After a while, Tom reached across the table, taking her hand gently in his. Clara, I've been thinking a lot about us. I know we come from different worlds, but I can't help feeling like this is something real, something worth fighting for. But I need to know something. Are you ready to let go of that other life? The one where you have to be the perfect CEO all the time. Clara's heart skipped a beat. He was asking her the question she had been avoiding. She had spent so long building her empire, her identity, around that role. Could she truly step away from it? Could she allow herself to live a life that didn't revolve around the pressure and expectations of her position? Clara looked into Tom's eyes, feeling both fear and excitement. For a moment, she was silent, contemplating. I'm scared, she finally admitted. I've spent so long being who everyone else expects me to be that I've forgotten who I am without all of that. But when I'm with you, I feel like I can breathe. I feel like I can be myself. Tom squeezed her hand, his voice soft but steady. You don't have to be perfect with me, Clara. You just have to be you. And if you're ready, I'll be here, no matter what. Clara looked at him, her emotions swirling. For the first time in a long time, she realized that she didn't have to choose between her career and her happiness. She could have both, but it would take letting go of the fear that had always held her back. The next day, Clara made a decision. She was ready to embrace this new chapter in her life. And with Tom by her side, she knew she could take that leap. She just had to trust herself and the love that had already started to grow between them. Clara's heart raced as she walked through the grand ballroom, the soft hum of voices and laughter surrounding her. The charity gala was in full swing, and as usual, Clara had to put on her mask, the one she wore in public, the confident CEO who was always poised and in control. But tonight, something felt different. Tonight, she wasn't just the boss. Tonight, she was someone else. As she made her way through the crowd, she caught sight of Tom across the room. He looked out of place in the sea of tuxedos and gowns, but there was something about the way he stood, quiet, grounded, that made him stand out. His eyes met hers, and the smile he gave her made Clara feel as though the weight of the evening had lifted. Hey, she said softly as she approached him. You made it. Tom nodded, his hands slightly tucked into his pockets. I wasn't sure if I belonged here, but I'm glad I came. Clara laughed lightly, feeling the tension ease. You belong more here than anyone. As they stood together, Clara realized that Tom wasn't just a man she had met by chance. He was becoming someone important, someone who saw her for who she truly was, beyond the title, beyond the wealth. Just as they started to speak, Clara's assistant, Lily, appeared at her side. Clara, the event organizers are looking for you. They want you to give a short speech about the charity's new initiative. Clara's stomach churned at the thought. The last thing she wanted to do tonight was stand in front of a crowd and speak. But this was part of her role, part of the image she had built. I'll be there in a moment, she replied, giving Tom a brief glance. I guess I'll have to go give my CEO speech. Tom smiled, a little amused by her words. I'm sure you'll do great. Clara took a deep breath and followed Lily to the stage, where the spotlight instantly hit her. She adjusted the microphone, the familiar nerves rising in her chest as she scanned the crowd. The faces blurred, but her eyes locked onto Tom, who stood at the back, watching her intently. She began her speech, but the words felt empty as she spoke. She wasn't talking about the charity's mission or the progress they were making. She was thinking about Tom, about how much she wanted to walk away from this world of expectations. As she finished and received polite applause, she quickly made her way back to Tom. You did well, he said when she reached him. Clara smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. It wasn't real, she said quietly, her voice just for him. It felt like I was playing a part again. Tom looked at her seriously. You don't need to play a part for me. You just need to be yourself. Clara's chest tightened. She had spent so long hiding behind the mask of the CEO, the woman, with everything under control. But with Tom, she didn't feel the need to hide. In the moments they shared together, she felt a connection that was raw and real. As the evening wore on, Clara found herself growing more and more tired of the facade. She looked at Tom, standing there with his simple but genuine smile, and realized she didn't want to be the CEO anymore. She wanted to be the woman who was free to love and be loved in return. They left the gala together, the cool night air refreshing after the heat of the crowded ballroom. Tom turned to her as they walked, his hand brushing against hers. So what now? He asked. Clara paused, her mind racing. She knew the answer. Now, we take this one step at a time. Together. It was the first time in a long while that Clara felt like she had a future she wanted to pursue, not because of her success or her reputation, but because of the person standing beside her. Tom had shown her what real love, real connection, could feel like. And in that moment, Clara knew she was ready to take the next step, no longer defined by her title, but by the love she had found in the most unexpected place. Clara stood in the quiet of her apartment, looking out over the city, the lights twinkling below like stars. The decision she had made felt surreal, Yet it was the most genuine choice she had ever made. Her heart was full, not just because of the man standing beside her, but because she had finally chosen herself, her happiness, and the future she wanted to create. Tom had shown her a world where success wasn't defined by power or wealth, but by love, simplicity, and real connection. As the weeks passed, Clara and Tom's relationship grew stronger. They continued to find joy in the small moments, walking through the park, enjoying coffee at a quiet cafe, and having honest conversations about their dreams. Clara didn't feel the need to hide behind the mask of the CEO anymore. She didn't have to prove anything to anyone. She was finally free to be herself. She had also made changes at work. With the board's support, she had implemented a new initiative that focused on sustainable growth and giving back to the community. Clara knew that it wasn't just about business anymore. It was about making a real impact in a way that aligned with the person she was becoming. The first test of this new path came sooner than she expected. A huge merger opportunity had surfaced, and the pressure to close the deal was overwhelming. Clara spent hours in meetings, reviewing the numbers, and weighing the consequences of the deal. But as the deadline approached, she felt a shift inside herself. She knew the deal was right on paper, but it didn't feel right in her heart. She had promised herself that she would no longer chase success for the sake of success. With a deep breath, Clara made the call. She walked into the boardroom, her decision clear. "I'm pulling out of the merger," she said, her voice steady. The room went silent. "We're going to focus on organic growth and build our brand in a way that aligns with our values. We'll take a different path, one that feels right for us, for the people who trust us." The board members exchanged glances, but Clara stood her ground. She was no longer the CEO who made choices out of fear or expectations. She was the CEO who made choices because they felt right. The months that followed brought new opportunities, ones that Clara could embrace fully. She and Tom traveled together, exploring new places and embracing life without the weight of the corporate world constantly pulling her down. One evening, while watching the sunset on a quiet beach, Tom turned to her, his expression soft. "Clara, there's something I've been thinking about," he said, his voice low. Clara looked at him, her heart racing. "What is it?" Tom took a deep breath, then pulled out a small box from his pocket. Clara's eyes widened. Inside was a simple silver ring. "Clara, will you marry me?" he asked, his eyes filled with sincerity. Clara felt tears welling up in her eyes as she looked at the man who had shown her what true love was. Without hesitation, she nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, yes, I will." They embraced, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore echoing in the background. For the first time in a long time, Clara felt completely at peace. She wasn't defined by her title, her wealth, or her past. She was simply Clara, and she had found her happiness. As they stood there, the sun setting on the horizon, Clara realized that her life was just beginning. The future she had once feared was now a world of endless possibilities, one she would navigate with love, authenticity, and the person who had shown her the way.